Hello everyone and welcome to the Flying Cork TX. Hey everyone, it's Tom Briscoe with the Flying Cork TX, and today I am out here at 12 Fires Winery, right on the 290 wine trail, right next door to the 290 wine castle. Very easy to find. And I'm going to go inside and we're going to have a conversation with Duke, one of the few owners. And let's go inside. So I'm sitting here with Duke Meadows, one of, what is it, four owners?
There's three of us, me, Mike, and Zach. Mike, Zach and I are all college buddies. We go back to Texas A&M. We were all in the Corps cadets together, but we were heavily involved in the Aggie bonfire. We were called Red Pots back in the day, so those were the Aggie coordinators in charge of Aggie bonfire. So we all befriended each other for that experience and that journey in life.
Awesome. So that's how you guys all got started a little later after college. Who was the instigator that decided, hey guys, let's get together and open?
I get blamed for that.
Okay.
in good ways and bad. The short version really is, so I got commissioned as an officer in the Air Force, and through that journey, the Air Force took me to the West Coast, and I got exposed to wine. You know, you go to Napa, Sonoma, things like that, and it kind of became our family go-to thing to do, to travel. So I became just a wine lover as a customer base. But when I came back to Texas in 2010, I found a job in oil and gas in Houston, and I started just to research businesses. I wanted to get into owning my own business, and wine was just kind of always there, but nothing really tickled my fancy, if you will, until I reconnected with one of my college buddies, Mike Nance, sitting there behind the camera, and who was, and he'll tell us that story. Who was basically learning how to make wine at a place called Bernhardt, which is north of Conroe in the Montgomery area. So I sat down one day after a college football game, came back and visited him at Bernhardt, and sat down on their patio and watched him and run around serving customers, and they had an Eagles cover band that day. I think there was 1,000 people showed up. So I'm just running numbers in my head. But for that process, it intrigued me. And of course, Mike invited me up for harvests and some winemaking processes, and we just really started to brainstorm. And it wasn't an overnight thing. I would say a good 3 years of just sharing ideas, looking for land, going to the Twigger conferences, just engaging other people, and really getting excited about the industry, learning everybody that had been through this journey, meeting those people. And I think the timing was was really right for a lot of us. And one day I found this piece of property. I think I saw it on a Wednesday, around October time frame of 2017. And I remember calling the owner, and I ran up and saw it on a Thursday. And I walked the land, and kind of the vision Mike and I had, I turned to the guy and said, "I'll take it." And of course, I got in the car and called Mike up and said, "Well, I bought some land." Of course, his response was, "Oh shit, we're doing this?" Excuse my language, but that was pretty much his response. Because before that, it was just all ideas, it was all pie in the sky and stuff. So we buckled down right after that and came here, and shortly after that, started to clear the land, put in the vineyard, really kind of lay out what we wanted to do. Got with some architects who, I've got some renderings here, who really just took our vision and ran with that, and we can talk more about that in more detail as well. But really just started beginning the process of building our dream out here.
Started out very, very small, didn't it? Did you guys have a container or a small?
Started with a 10th.
Yeah, that's right.
We did. Yeah, we started selling wine. So Mike went on he's on the winemaking side, obviously. I'm more on the operations guy, and so Mike went on his merry way to start checking those boxes. And around summer of 2019, we were literally selling wine out of a cooler, under a tent at the top of the property. Zach has a friend at Austin who has a roofing company, who actually roofs this tasting room here, but he also, as a side project, has a container conversion company. And he built us our first tasting room out of that container up there. And he gave us this container too. That's now cold storage for us. So yeah, we started serving wine out of that for many, many months. And then we actually have, we call it the chicken tender. The container was the chicken nugget. And then we called our second place the chicken tender because it was the Bee Cave Mall. It was Santa's little playhouse during Christmas where kids went and asked Santa what they want for Christmas. At any rate, again, another Zach story. He knew the person who set up all those Christmas areas, and they said, "You want a free building? It's going in the trash. Come get it." So we went and dismantled it with the idea of just making it into a maintenance shed for lawnmowers and vineyard equipment. But we grew out of the container, so we pivoted and made that second building that we called the chicken tender into our tasting room. And of course, we started to migrate people down here, put the roads in during construction of this building, so people can see the growth and development, which we thought people would enjoy as they're enjoying wine over there at our kind of first initial phases, if you will. And then a year and a handful of months, October of 22, we had our grand opening of our formal tasting room. And we've been here ever since.
Yeah, I definitely remember your guys' growth appeared to be, at least for those of us from the outside and living outside of the wine country, was this place seemed to have grown really fast. From, like you said, the tent to smaller building and then to the bigger.
We tried to be smart about it. Every penny we make goes right back into it. We have again bigger plans. We call it 3 phases. So phase 1 is the vineyard, the tasting room, and the glamping tents that we just finished installing. So by all means, we're pretty much done with phase 1. And I got a visual of that. If you want to kind of see that real quick.
Definitely. I stayed in the glamping tents this weekend. So trust me when I tell you, you have to stay here.
There you go.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So we got all that installed. But our phase 2 is eventually we want to build our winery production facility. Right now, we use a custom crush out of East Texas called Sage's Vintage. And of course, we use Hilmy over here in the Hill Country as well. But this is phase 2 where we want to build our winery production facility. We want to use the gravity-fed concept because we have an elevated geography back here. So we can cut into the hill and use a lot of the elevation and get that geothermal effect and take advantage of that coldness coming up through the earth. That's our advantage. This is an oculus, which is really cool. This is what our architects came up with. And I got a rendering of that here. I got to show that one here. It's
so that corner that's behind the tents. That's
you got it.
Where I saw some I'm going to say deconstruction to start with before you can start the construction.
It's all deconstruction. Yeah,
I saw that. I was walking through that earlier today. It was
at the very bottom. Oh, there it is. Last one, of course. So our architects came up with this, and basically the sun cascades through that oculus, but it's filled with water. So we want to have not just a production facility. We want to have where members and tours can be presented. High-end wine tasting experience, pairing with the winemaker. Go into the winery building,
that's gonna be exciting.
Barrel tasting. But first, you come into this cave room, and again, the sun cascades through the water, and it bounces off the stone walls. It looks absolutely phenomenal. But so we have to give it to our architects. Came up with this, Impact Architects out of College Station. They did a phenomenal job. So little details like that. So that'll be phase 2 is our winery building.
I see. Oh, what did you said? Architects out of College Station?
Well, actually closer to Bryan, I should say. Yeah.
Are they Aggies as well?
They are.
An offshoot of.
There's a lot of little Aggie details throughout there, or obviously.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hey,
throughout our concept here, for sure.
Use the guys that you love. Share the fun. Yeah, that looks very exciting.
We got some good little details. Yeah, the story Mike and I tell is, we kind of laid out our ideas, and we kind of went in there with little crayons and little notes and stuff. And again, I have to give it to Pat because one of the first things they did was say, well, before you show us what you got, let's just get to know y'all. And we sat there for an hour, and they just peppered us with questions, talked about us, our past, Texas A&M, the Corps cadets, Aggie bonfire, the experience, so on and so forth. And then after that, we showed them the layout of the land, the property, 12 acres that we bought, which was totally random. And we presented all these ideas to them. They said, okay, give us a couple weeks. And we came back in a couple weeks, and they laid out our phase 1, our phase 2, and our phase 3 absolutely just tremendously. And we were just jaw dropped with them taking our ideas, our concepts, and our vision and running with it.
I'm gonna back up a second because I'm still wrapping my head around the coincidence that you bought 12 acres.
Yeah,
that's that's.
Well, the story basically goes back to coming up with a name, and if there's anything I think personally that's hard to do, it's coming up with a name of a business. It's your branding, it's your identity, it's your absolute everything, it's your marketing. And we whiteboarded for many months, because all of this, as the story goes, is kind of colored by numbers. You buy the land, clear the land, put the vineyard in, go to the architects, design the buildings. I'm definitely oversimplifying, but ultimately coming up with a name was definitely a difficult journey. But the number 12 and fire were very meaningful terms for us. We did a lot of different ideas around those, that number, and of course that word, fire. And at the end of the day, we realized it was very meaningful to us, so we named it 12 Fires Winery and Vineyard. My personal experience, I was in Squadron 12 in the Corps of Cadets. And the Corps has a lot of attrition, so I started off with 32 buddies, ended up with 12 buddies. Like I said before, we were all in bonfire, so I built 4 bonfires. Mike built 4 bonfires. Zach built 4. Of course, again, like you alluded to, we bought 12 acres out here. And 12 is, a very common number. You got 12 cases, or 12 bottles in a case. You got, it goes on and on and on. And the deeper part of the story is, if you know what happened in 1999 when Aggie bonfire fell, 12 souls lost their lives, and many of them were our friends. And one of them was my roommate in the Corps Cadets. His name was Chris Breen. He was also a coordinator. We called him Brown Pots in Aggie bonfire. So he was one of our best friends. So when we were back to whiteboarding, and 12 and fire just kept coming up as very heartfelt, meaningful terms, and say, you know what, it's 12 Fires Winery and Vineyard. And we tell our marketing story of it and keep it kind of high level. And if people want to hear the deeper portion, we'll go a little deeper. So when we bought the 12 acres, is a little bit of, you know what, we just got to listen to the universe, and it's going to be 12 Fires Winery and Vineyard.
Yeah, well played, for sure. There's that deeper meaning with the bonfire, of course. And then there's another 12th man story for one of the games, right?
Oh gosh, yeah, I almost left that out. Again, we are Aggie owned and operated, but we always talked about, look, we don't want to be, yes, we bleed maroon, but we don't be so Aggie-ish that we run away some other customers. But the 12th man is definitely one of those 12 themes that are in there.
One of my favorites, of course, being a wine lover, and something that definitely blew my mind was your 12 varietal, the Doce Uva.
Doce Uvas, yeah. I'll let Mike talk about that when he goes. But yeah, that was another big hit we used to have. That one's sadly all gone.
Yeah. I got a couple of bottles. Maybe I didn't drink both of them, or I know I took a bottle of that home. Anyway, so yeah, it doesn't exist there
that was a fun journey. That was a fun journey. It ended up with 12 varietals, and the point is, that wasn't even on purpose. It wasn't until the end of the process of coming up with that blend that I counted. Guys, there's 12 varietals in this. And then Mike did a good job of doing a little research and coming up with, fairly simply, 12 grapes, which is Doce Uvas.
Well, we all have had red blends. I've never had anything of that magnitude. But 12 varietals in one blend is just, it just still goes over my head.
It was fantastic.
It was very delicious. So what do you have estate here wise, vines growing? What varietals do you have there?
So we ended up planting Mourvedre as our red, and Albarino as our white. On our 6th leaf
favorites,
our 6th leaf. So we've yet to harvest. We're looking forward to this year, so we might actually harvest for the first time. So so the first few years we've just been letting all the nutrients and energy go into the rootstock. So we'll see how we do this year.
Excellent. I'm gonna look forward to those too.
We'll finally have some estate wine to play with.
Certainly going to actually write a more lengthier post about the tent city and staying there.
Well,
that was a really great place too.
You start hearing a lot of the same comments and questions when you're serving wine to customers. Like, how did you get into wine? What's your favorite wine? And one of the general comments was people would say, I wish they found a place to stay. We would have stayed out here for 2 or 3 days. And of course, we always respond with the questions of, well, when you start looking for a place, and they would say things like, well, Monday. Well, you know, things get booked out here many moons in advance. So just hearing that over and over again, we always had ideas of having some type of, whether they were converted containers or tiny homes or bungalows or yurts. It was still in kind of idea phase, but we came across these glamping tents that really kind of fit our mantra, which is rustic yet sophisticated. You know, we're living up to that scenario. Rustic being the look and feel of our place and our building and our architecture, and or sophisticated being our wines. But we found those glamping tents and really kind of fit into our model, so we jumped on those, and so far they've been a pretty success rate as far as renting them out. Had a little freeze, a lot of maintenance issues with them, but other than that,
I believe Mike was telling us about that on Friday night about the freeze issues. But
well, as anybody knows, the more you build, that just equates to more things you got to maintain.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we had a nice little fire in the fire pit last night too.
Good. Glad you enjoyed it.
So that was fun. Little nibby. It was a great night for it. It was a very, very, very clear night for it too.
You had some good.
There's
some good skylights up there.
Yeah. There's you're sitting there at the fire pit and you just tilt your head back and look up. There is a circle of the Texas live oaks around there. It leaves a hole to look up at to see the stars up there.
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah,
it was very, very clear.
Well, we got more to go. Hopefully, we'll continue to develop this out. Like I said, we want to do our phase 2 with the winery building. There's a beautiful hill there when you're coming into the property that has great views of the valley. We call that phase 3. We do have ideas that we want to build something up there. As of recently, we've started to get into very small weddings. And we've done one right out here on the patio, which turned out to be very successful. So we got another one coming up in May. So we're excited to get more into those ventures as well. So I got asked to officiate a wedding many moons ago. So
that's awesome.
Zach's pretty good at telling people we do weddings. Oh, by the way, Duke can officiate for you if need be.
Yeah, who's going to say no to that? As far as the wines go, did you want to trade spots, hand off to Mike? And
let's get the expert in here.
Mike, we're going to talk about the wines, right? So I am going to throw this one out to you, and it is a very common one. It is, what is your favorite grape? Your singular grape varietal. What is yours?
So kind of oscillates. Most recently, I think Dolcetto has become my favorite to work with. We've had 3 vintages of Dolcetto that we've sold here. The 21, they just keep getting better. All of them we've gotten from Pepperjack Vineyard up in High Plains,
up north,
in Brownfield. It's a very casual wine. I call it my pizza wine because it's laid back and it pairs really nicely with very casual food. So that's been my favorite. But Montepulciano has also got a place in my heart.
Yeah, ditto. We were there for a month last year in Italy, and spent one of the 4 weeks was in Montepulciano. Sadly, without a car. I recommend having a car if you go there, but there's no shortage of places to purchase or drink or eat when you're there in town. Just didn't get to go out amongst the wineries that were there.
Well, you probably find mostly Sangiovese, ironically. Because
absolutely,
the Italian Montepulciano is Sangiovese.
Sangiovese goes under many names.
Right. It's kind of confusing, but it's all delicious.
What? And I'm sorry again. You said on the property here on the estate, you said
Mourvedre and
Albarino. Yeah. Those two do very well in the state of Texas.
Yeah, we actually were initially drawn towards Tempranillo, and shoot, what was the other variety we were looking?
Viognier.
Oh, Viognier,
yeah.
But some friends of ours that were helping us out getting our ideas together,
Mhm.
Robert and Lydia Nida that have Pebble Rock cellars in Johnson City,
Uh-huh.
they were like, y'all gonna have plenty on your hands. These are two temperamental varieties
Uh-huh.
that you've picked out,
Mhm.
and you'll be working really hard to keep them healthy. So why
Mhm.
don't you not plant the troublemakers? Plant something a little easier to grow, and the Morvet
Mhm.
and Albarino have done pretty well on the site.
Yeah. I think down here in Central Texas, I think Tempranillo is not too bad to work with, but up in the high plains, it's I think those guys don't like playing with that one very often up
Yeah.
there. It seems anymore. I think I'm gonna work with another friend of mine on declaring getting Tempranillo as the national grape of Texas. There's they have a national beer of Texas.
Sure.
Why
Why not have a national
grape?
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and in my limited experience in making wine in Texas, it seems to change. What's going to be that big red
Yep.
grape? What's going to
Uh-huh.
be the one that we hang our hat on? Tempranillo
Yeah.
certainly filled that slot for a while.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's as often as we plant new grapes.
Mm-hmm.
We're finding something else that thrives.
Yeah.
Dolcetto, Montepulciano,
Yep.
both doing great. Tanat really.
I was just going to say
took
Tanat's
the place by
a
storm.
pretty
So,
huge one.
yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
whether we ever define ourselves that much,
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, places like Napa, they're tied to Cabernet Sauvignon. Texas is such a big place, and you got such dynamic variety of settings that
Mhm.
I don't know that we're ever gonna just this is our grape.
Right. Right.
And I'm all right with that.
Mm-hmm.
I love trying new stuff.
Yeah, definitely. What's out of fear of potentially insulting some UT folks? Can you explain this one here that I'm tasting?
I'm guessing that's the saw 'em off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, a little story behind that. We
hornless longhorn on the label.
Yeah. We so when Duke and I and Zach were students up at A&M, there was a gentleman that used to sell T-shirts on the curb in front of Kyle Field on game days. His name was Foddy, and now he has the Aggieland Outfitters empire, I'll call it, in College Station. He's got several stores, and very early on in our development, we went to talk to Foddy about merchandising, selling hats and T-shirts and things like that. And he's one of the first things he said was, "Okay, yeah, that's great, but why don't you just sell your wine at my store?" It's like, well, didn't know we could, but okay. So Foddy's been really, really good to us, and Aggieland Outfitters has been fantastic. We go up there most game weekends and make new connections and make old connections, and it's been fantastic. But Foddy owns the trademark to the saw 'em off logo, and a couple of years ago he said, "I'd like to have that on a wine label." And we said, "We'd like to put that on the wine label." So it just worked out really well, and it's a blend of dominated by Cabernet Sauvignon, and Alicante Boucher is also a heavy player in it. It's been a great performer for us. Kind of our bigger and bolder of our lineup.
The Alicante, where did you get that from?
That was a wine that,
or where'd you get the grape from?
So Dave mentioned that making wine at Helmy Cellars.
Yeah, Helmy. Okay.
And Michael Barton is a good friend of mine. He allows us space in the vineyard or in the winery, and so when he's got a little bit extra of something, I sometimes get first dibs on it, and that was the case with the Alicante Boucher. Was one that he made, and we got
sharing is caring. That's another one of the things that I love about the Texas wine industry and all of you guys and the winemakers and how well everybody works together.
Kind of that Texas versus the world atmosphere, that chip on the shoulder attitude about our competition isn't our neighbors, it's California and South Africa and Chile, and I like that about it. That's really one of the things that drew me to the industry.
Yeah, indeed, definitely, me too. What other varietals are you guys working with in there?
So I mentioned Pepper Jack Vineyard, and they will strictly work with Italian varieties, and I've really been crazy about all of those. We get
I'm pretty biased to the Italian variety.
We get Trebbiano from them.
Me thing.
Like I mentioned, the Dolcetto, Montepulciano. Alianico, and this year we actually got some Chiraldigo and Negro Amaro. Those are doing well in barrel, so we're excited about those. I think, you know, I like Tempranillo, a Mediterranean climate. I think it suits Texas well. They do well. You know, the Italian varieties do, and I don't want to pigeonhole ourselves, but I'm really happy to work with what is what I don't have to fight with. I mean, I mean, I made wine in California for a season, and what I learned from that experience was, you know, if the grapes like where they're growing, all you got to do in the cellar is not mess it up. And I kind of like that concept.
Yeah. What's the phrase? You can make great wine out of great grapes.
You can make good wine.
You can make bad wine out of great grapes. But you can't make.
Can't make good wine out of bad grapes.
It all starts in the vineyard.
Yeah, that's right.
It all starts in the vineyard, exactly. Wine is made in the vineyard, for sure.
Again, this goes back to Italian ones, but your rosé that you have in there.
Okay, the Arasato.
Yes, the Arasato. It's Alianico and Dolcetto. That's right. Yeah, I knew it.
But
there were the two, but yeah, it is. Oh my God. It is amazing.
Thanks very much.
Get here before it's gone, and you've got to try it.
Didn't make much of it. It was just it was kind of a fun little project. I mean, we got. I wouldn't say last year was universally difficult to get good concentration out of, but some grape varieties it was a little more challenging. So, what you'll do with those red grapes is bleed off a little bit, get better juice to skin ratio. Get a little bit bigger reds, but you've also got this juice to work with. So we made it into the Arasato blend, and it's softer and more complex, I think, than a typical, you know, a traditional style rosé. So it's fun.
That Alianico just took the rosé to here to the next level. It's not a sweet rosé by any means. We're very much a dry rosé, but just that added extra body that you get from the Alianico is, that was wonderful.
So that was actually the second time we used Alianico. The first time was 2019 when I got our first red grape harvest from Pepperjack. And a funny story with that one was made it over at Horn Winery when we first got started. I was making wine over there, and we were actually storing a couple of barrels of Black Spanish port that we had bought from another winery that was going out of business, or they're closing their doors. I don't think they were. Anyway, got a couple of barrels of this 2015 Black Spanish that was made into a port style wine, and they were storing it over there at Horn, and well, there was an accident in the cellar, and they dropped 2 barrels of the port and 2 barrels of the Alianico, and without realizing that there were 2 different wines, they put them in the same tank. So they blended them for us, and I was really upset until I thought about it and I tasted it again with a different perspective, and I was like, "Wow, I can work with this." And it turned into our Calaboose dessert wine, which not as syrupy as a typical port. That Alianico kind of stretched it out and made it a little more drinkable, and been quite popular.
I don't think I've had a Black Spanish port style.
It does a fantastic job with
dessert wine yet.
It's a tricky grape to work with because it's got such bizarre chemistry and such big flavor, and the Black Spanish funk. And it takes some time in barrel to get over that funkiness, and that really lends itself to doing a nice port.
Let's see. I think we saw some of the layouts here as far as future growth goes, but as far as wine goes, you say you're looking for in the future. I know up and coming we have the Mourvèdre and the Viognier.
Right.
You said right, yeah.
Albarino.
Albarino. Yep. What other plans you guys have for the future?
I want to get Mourvèdre into our regular rotation. We've had one so far. I've got one in barrel right now, but we'll Mourvèdre I think is a great grape for Texas, and it's very versatile. Right. I love a Mourvèdre rosé. I like it as a red. I like it as a blender. It does. It's a multi-purpose grape for sure, and fairly common, so it's not hard to get hold of. I'd like to stick with Italian varieties. I like Pepper Jack Vineyards. I like what they're doing out there, so it's been a great relationship. Gonna keep using our East Texas varieties, Black Spanish and Blanc de Bois. Those are the first grapes I worked with, and have a special place in my heart. And I don't think they get the exposure out here in the Hill Country like they should. Yeah. So we'll keep working with those.
And here in Texas, I feel like we should see more Black Spanish grapes, but not as much as.
Again, it's tricky one to work with.
On that, yeah.
Winemakers, may not like working with it, but I think done in the right way. Yeah. Our Black Spanish Rosé, I think, is a fantastic way to use Black Spanish. Yeah, without skin contact, it's still got that super red color because it's Tantier, but I think a lot of that funk is in the skins. So remove the skins, and it makes what I like to call a red wine drinker's rosé because it's got a lot of body, it's got a lot of flavor, but it's it's unique for sure. It's certainly not everybody's cup of tea, but it's got a great story and a long history in Texas.
All right, awesome. Anything you want to tell them to lure them out here? Our watches,
get out here. We've come a long way. If you haven't been out here in a while, our entire the whole place has changed. I mean, with this new tasting room, the new glamping tents, but I like to think that our character hasn't changed. I think we're still the same old guys that were slinging wine out of the fun little shipping container. So come out and see what we're doing.
Yep, absolutely. Indeed. And again, if you like this video and the Texas the Flying Cork TX, hit subscribe, hit a thumbs up, and drink more Texas wine.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.